Welcome to the With Winning in Mind podcast. I'm Heather Sumlin, and today I'm talking with my father, Lanny Bassham, and we're going to discuss what should you do when you're heading into that next phase, whether it's in your sport, in your life, in your career. And so where we want to start, Lanny, is tell us a little bit. We don't do a lot of discussion about when you retired from rifle, when you stopped shooting competitively. So can you kind of walk us through what happened? How did you know it was time to move forward?
Well, it wasn't my idea. I was I had won the World Championships. I won the Olympics. I was number one ranked shooter in the world. I got out of the military, and I started an international shooting school. And the big plus of the International Shooting School was I was prepared. I was not prepared for retirement at all. I was prepared to win the World Championships in 1982, go back to the Olympics in 1984, defend my title, and I had it all. Everything, every plan, every box was checked.
You had structure.
I had to get out of the Army because the Army would not let me go back to the Army Marksmanship Unit. They were going to send me to to a graduate school or something like that where I couldn't shoot. I couldn't be a part of the U.S. team and stay in the military. So I got out of the military, but I had to have a way to be able to continue to train and keep my skills. So I solved that problem by getting some investors. Buying some land, creating an international shooting school, which was a way that I could train and earn some money by coaching, and I could teach a little mental management. But frankly, at that time in history, the mental game was still in its infancy. Even mental management was in its infancy. I had a system, but I hadn't taught much about by this time. And maybe I'd had a few clients. But it was the world wasn't ready for mental management at that time. But they were ready to have a place where you could send somebody that was serious about getting a medal where they could train. And there were very few other options in the world. So we were full all the time with shooters from India or Korea or Japan or any place around the world where they didn't have a Army marksmanship unit like we do in the United States. So I was not prepared at all for retirement. I was prepared for a launch for phase two of Lanny's career, So I was not expecting anything, and I go out to practice one day, and I'm looking through the sights, and we have iron sights, so there's no scopes or anything like that. So I'm looking through the sights, and you have to have really good vision to be able to tell the difference between a 10 and a 9 through the sights with the targets at 50 meters away. All you can really see is a black bullseye. You can't really see the 10 ring. The 10 ring is the size of an eraser on a pencil, 50 meters away. But you have to be able to line that bullseye up in your front sight, and your rear sight lines up. Your front sight lines up in your rear sight, and you have to be able to see pretty well. And I'd always had great vision. And I looked through the sights, and I thought something was in my sights. I thought there was, I don't know, a cobweb or something. And so I remember blowing on my front sight to try to clear it up. I remember taking the iris out and cleaning the front sight, put the iris back in. Everything was fine. I looked through there; it's still blurry. And I thought, oh, this isn't good. So what do I do now? And so I go, well, let's go to the optometrist to find out what's going on. Mm-hmm. So I go in there, and we had a really great guy who knew a little bit about what we did. We'd taken our shooters for shooting glasses in to see him, so he was familiar with what we were doing. And he says, well, okay, let me check you out. Okay, he says, you need a little correction. So we'll order you a lens out, and in a couple of weeks you'll get it. That was in a time where it took you 2 weeks to get a lens. No lens crafters in those days, and so I'm not training for 2 weeks because I can't see, and so he and on when the lens came back, I was excited because now I can get back and train, and so I put the lens in my shooting glasses, and I can't see any better with that lens than I did before. I go back into the doctor, and I said, well, there's something wrong with this lens. He says, no, there's nothing wrong with the lens, but your prescription has changed.
In 2 weeks?
In 2 weeks.
Oh,
and he says, let's go to lunch, and come back after lunch. I want to check something. So we came back after lunch, and he put me back in the chair, and he checked my prescription. My prescription wasn't the same in the afternoon that it was in the morning, and so he said, let's check it tomorrow morning. So I came back the next day, and he says your vision is changing all the time. It's just not stable. And he said it's not where you can't read or drive or anything like that, but you're not able to tell the difference between a 10 and a 9 through the sights. So I said, what do I do about it? I said, well, I'm going to send you to a specialist. Okay, so I'm not training here. This is 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I go to see this specialist. He came in and he told me, he says, well, I know what's wrong with you. And I said, well, great, And he says, your vision's changing all the time.
I said, no kidding. Well, I kind of knew that before I got here.
I got it. He said, but it's not changing much. He says, so I don't really think there's anything we need to do anything about this. He said, you can do everything you want to do. It's just a slight variation. He said, occasionally it'll be just clear as a bell, and sometimes it won't be. It'll be a little bit fuzzy. And I said, well, a little bit fuzzy. I said, I can do everything I want to do except shoot an international rifle. And he says, well, is that important?
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. I said, and I explained a little bit more about what I did, and he said, well, I really don't know. Well, he said, even if we gave you contacts a variety of contacts, he says, your vision is changing so much that you would be taking them out and putting them in while you were shooting, and he says that's really not good for your eyes, and so I went to another specialist, same story, and so it's a vision problem that. I was retired medically, just as serious a problem. If you cut my arms off, it's the same thing. I had to call the Olympic Committee and the shooting team and tell them that, take me off the rolls.
What was that like for you, though? Like, how did you emotionally handle that news?
Well, my initial reaction was I was angry. Mm-hmm. I was angry because I had worked so hard to get to that point to where I was independent of everybody. I was number one in the world. I had sponsorship from. Like I had a gun company that would take care of maintaining my rifles or rebarreling or give me a new gun or whatever it was for me to use. I had coats, equipment, clothing equipment, sponsorship, ammo sponsorship. I mean, I had everything just perfect, all and had the range to train on, and it was just, so this is when God takes my vision away?
Right when you're at the top of the mountain?
What's this? And I was angry. I was angry at God, really. I was like, why did you do this? And to tell you the truth, I didn't understand that there was a purpose in. I didn't get to the top of that mountain by myself. Mm-hmm. God structured me, structured events, whatever, interceded in some way to allow me to become world champion and Olympic gold medalist for His purpose. Not to make me famous or to make me feel good or anything like that. He had His purposes for me, and I was very much prayerfully trying to follow in the path that God wanted me to follow. And I've got to tell you that I probably was more motivated to glorify me than glorify God in this process. I mean, it feels really good to be able to walk on the range in a world championships and everybody looks at you and says, gosh, he's the guy to beat. I mean, I had been the guy that looked at somebody else and says, well, he's the guy to beat. I'd been that guy for a long time. And now I was the guy that everybody had trouble beating, and I mean, I had the goods too. Boy, I could deliver. I had the mental game. I had the technique. I designed the rifle that I used, and I had everything all set there. But without humans don't realize how fragile you are when you compare yourself to what God can do with you and what God can take away. What He gives you good health. And, you know, He can structure things any way you want. And I don't know for sure if God took away my vision or what. If it was, you can believe whatever you want to believe about that. But I'll tell you what, I didn't have peace about it until I had peace about it. Till I said, okay, so what's next now? Because I didn't know who I was. You know,
right.
I mean, as a performance coach, I mean, I was one of these guys. There's two kind of coaches out there. Those of you that coach and still compete, you know, you'll understand what I'm saying. There's a coach who competes, and there's a competitor who coaches, and they're two different guys. The coach who competes, when he goes to tournaments, he's surfing for students to coach.
Or he's caring about how his students are doing.
Well,
right?
yeah. Well, both of them are caring how their students are doing, but the major reason why he's still shooting is to be around potential people for him to coach. Okay, so this is the feeder system for him. This is the marketing plan for him to be able to have professional coaches continue to compete so that they can be around other people that are competing. And now, but a competitor who coaches, they're probably coaching to pay for their shooting addiction. I mean, you know, this is how they pay to be able, because you're not going to make a lot of money as an Olympic athlete. There are very few Olympic sports that you can live on the income that you get from competing. If you want to make some money, you need to pick up a golf club. You don't need to be picking up a rifle. But what happens is that these people. When I was a competitor who coached, I think I was dedicated as a coach. I enjoyed coaching, but something happened to me when I lost my vision. I could no longer compete. So here's what drove me to work so hard. I always with shooting, I wanted to see how good can I get. All right, and when I was the best in my school, I wanted to be the best in my state. When I was the best in my state, I wanted to be the best in the country. When I was the best in the country, I wanted to be the best in the world. Even though the tallest mountain in my sport is Olympic gold medal, and I got there. But when I could no longer do that again, I said, well, what is it? It's a great feeling to know that you can do something, at least on a day. You change the day. Maybe somebody else could say this instead of you, but at least on a day, there were nobody better in the world than you. I mean, that's a great feeling. Mm-hmm. And to have that not even possible in the future, to be able to do that, no matter how much I wanted it, it was not going to happen anymore. How do I, once you've got that, it's hard not to want it to continue. And so I thought, well, what can I do? And not only what it was the way that I was going to get students and things like that. I said, well, okay, so what do you want to do? What is the next phase? What's the next version of you? What do you like to do? I mean, what do you want to do? I mean, I could have continued to compete. I mean, there are other sports like archery. Archery doesn't require you to have that level of vision to shoot a bow. I could have switched. I mean, if competing was the whole deal. Now it would have taken a while to get back up to that same level. But I had enough confidence in my mental skills and everything that if I had really wanted to do that, but I prayed about it, and this is what I do when I don't know what to do. I pray, and sometimes I'll have a thought that happens shortly after a prayer. I don't ever hear voices or anything like that, but what I hear is I think about something, and what I was thinking about every time I was concerned and praying about this, God, what are you doing with me, and all that kind of stuff, is it always kind of came back to mental management. Mm-hmm. I said, okay, you've got this thing that you've developed, and you've thought about. You started a company. You've started out, but you've been so focused on shooting that nothing. There's no room for a business. There's no room for you to teach mental management. So you're still every time you go to the range, you're reminded that you can't do this anymore, and it's painful. It was painful for me to continue to teach shooters how to shoot because it was a constant reminder. Even today, when I go to a 50-meter range, I want to suit up. I want to shoot. That never left. But I think that shooters or any athlete has to deal with the day is going to come, especially if you're at the top of your game. The day is going to come when you can't win anymore. You're the fastest gunslinger in town, and sooner or later there's going to be a new guy that's going to be faster, and there's going to be a new guy that's going to be better. And you actually see this a lot in every high school in the country. I mean, in Texas, where we live, I mean, football is king.
Yeah.
And other sports may be king in other places like Canada, probably hockey or whatever it is. But we almost deify our football players in high school. I mean, you have pep rallies, and they're brought out on the stage, and they're in the quarterbacks in the news. If they win a football, everything is written up. Their names are in there, and they're elevated to a lot of fame. I mean, as a high school football player, senior year, big deal. And then something terrible happens to them.
They graduate.
Yeah, now nobody cares. And it's the same thing that I went through, and that every competitor is going to go through. And people deal with it in different ways. So let's talk about ways to deal with it, because I really think that parents need to prepare their children if they are stars in high school, they need to prepare them for what's going to happen next and to be able to deal with this. I think if you are competing and you want to be the best in your state or best in your club or the best at some point you're not going to be, and you're going to have to know what are your options. How do you deal with that? Now, if you take a look at I was in the company of world-class athletes, and I was able to see how they handled when they could no longer win. And on my team, I had three shooters. We were the best that the United States has ever. The four-person team, we've never produced a better, more winning four-person team. As a matter of fact, I don't think any country has ever matched us in this statement, is that all four of us were individual world champions, all four of us were world record holders, all four of us had Olympic gold medals. I mean, it was when has that ever happened before? And we were shooting at the same time against each other. So for the first 3 years or so, I just watched while each one of those kind of traded off as to who was going to be the star. And in 1972, I get a silver medal in the Olympics, but my teammate gets the gold medal. Okay, then 1972. Well, by 1976, now he was world champion in 1974, so he was still at the top. And he, in 1976, he doesn't make the Olympic team for the United States. Margaret Murdoch and I made the Olympic team. So Jack Ryder did not, the reigning world champion in three position, did not make the Olympic team. And here's how he dealt with it. He stopped. He stopped shooting. And I didn't talk to him about it too much, but it was like, well, that's always an option. You know, I'm going to go do something else. And he went to work with his dad's company, and he just didn't come back. He just never came back. By that time, I'd kind of gone around Lona Swigger, and now Lona Swigger never stopped. Right. His way of dealing with it is, well, okay, I'm going to win my share. You know, he told me one time, he says, 9 out of 10 times you're probably going to beat me, but I'm going to make my one time count. You know, and so he continued to medal. He made an Olympic team later in life, and he continued to shoot. Right up into his 80th year, he was still shooting.
Wow.
Now, no longer able to compete for national titles or world titles or anything like that. But I would say he was still probably competitive nationally, but internationally. But his method was, I'm just going to keep on pulling the trigger until they put me in the ground, right? And that's exactly what happened. And so you go from big extremes for either you quit or you keep on going, and you just have to suffer the indignity, if you call it that, of not winning all the time. I mean, you know, you're still famous. I mean, he's won more than anybody else has ever won, and there's the U.S. Shooting Training Center is named after him. He's the only shooter in the Olympic Hall of Fame, and we'll have more shooters coming, but he's the only one there. So
and
he's
isn't he
still a famous guy.
Total medal count?
Yeah, I'm third all-time medal count with 35 international medals. The guy that's in second place is 36. He has 112.
Yeah.
So that tells you who Lona Swigger is, but or was. But how Margaret dealt with it is that Margaret Murdoch changed the shooting game completely, because we immediately after we tie at the Olympics in 1972, that's another story.
76.
1976. we tie, and but the shooting world changed because then that spawned women's sports, women's shooting sports, and now we've had women's events since then, which was a really good thing. It's a good thing for the country too, because our girls are really good, and our girls are. And it's some years our girls are stronger than our guys, and so it's good having both opportunities. Where guys don't have to shoot against the girls that are really good, so that's pretty good for us. But the way she dealt with it is she changed careers. She went back to school, and she became a nurse anesthetist, and had a fine career in something totally different from shooting. And I guess I followed that path. I decided that I'm going to change what's important. So I think the answer is, for anyone that is going through the transition, you probably got 3 options. If you quit because you can't compete at the level that you had, if it just doesn't mean anything to you, is there something else that you can do that's close to that you could be world class in? Maybe that's a good thing that you could do. I mean, I could have shot rapid fire pistol. I could have shot archery. There's other sports that you can transition into. But if that's not going to work, then find something else that you're passionate about. I mean, I just think that once you have reached an exceptionally high level, the desire to reach an exceptionally high level, as long as you've still got the burn inside to want to be the best in the world at something, you find the something. And for me, it was really developing mental management, coaching mental management. I knew it was valuable because it was a game changer for me, and the people that I was working with, it was a game changer for them too. So I was able to transition into that. And I really personally think that that's what God wanted me to do anyway. I think the reason why I was able to win the Olympics and the World Championships wasn't because he wanted me to feel good or anything like that. It was because there are certain doors that are open to me to do his work through mental management that I wouldn't have if I didn't have an Olympic gold medal in my resume.
Something that strikes me is how often people identify who they are with what they do. And I think it's 2 separate things. I think a rifle shooter wasn't your identity, but you made it your identity. It was just what you did. It wasn't necessarily who you were, but yet that's how you were identifying yourself, is I'm a champion, I'm a shooter, I'm a competitor. And you put yourself in that box. And did that make it harder then to transition?
I don't think my self-image changed much when I switched to I wanted to be the best mental coach in the world. I wanted to know more and to be able to deliver the message. I still feel like that. Not to be arrogant or anything like that, but I enjoyed knowing that, at least for a while, I was the best in the world at something, in shooting. And I think you are the best. There's nobody in this world that can prepare a contestant for a pageant mentally better than you can. You are the best in the world at what you do. Troy is the best in the world at helping a junior player play at his best. And I mean, if you can do it with a junior player, you can do it with a PGA Tour player. But because we have worked so hard, nobody's taught as many people as you've taught. Nobody has learned as much as you've learned, and nobody has the success that you've had. That's gotta feel. That's worth working for. I mean, there's a different level of you can work to be successful, and that's a good goal. Or you can work to be the best in the world at what you do. I mean, if your passion is to be the absolute best, best teacher that you can be, or the best engineer that you can be, the best plumbing company in town, you have a different motivation. You have a passion for what you're doing that's outside of just being good at it. And if you're okay with being good at it, that's I'm not against that. I'm just saying that when I transitioned to teach mental management, I knew I had to start kind of at the bottom, and I didn't have anybody to mentor me. I mean, one thing about it, shooting, I had the best mentors in the world. I had Lonis Wigger, Jack Ryder, and Margaret Murdoch to learn from, and I knew I followed their path. Well, in mental management, there was nobody to follow because we kind of invented this thing, and nobody. It's not sports psychology. It's finding out what the winners are doing, making it a better way to teach it, and then finding a way to deliver that to people that want to improve, and nobody was doing that, and over the years, the importance that people place on the mental game has increased, thank goodness for us. But it's higher today than it's ever been. But I don't think that I felt disappointed that I couldn't continue, because that would have been, to tell you the truth, that there wasn't too much more for me to learn. I was pretty much kind of topped out. There was a very low probability that I was going to learn a lot more than what I already.
As far as technically?
Yeah, technically, right. or what I knew what I needed to stay at the top. If there were no health issues, I could have remained competitive. And there are guys that I mean, I wasn't too old. There are guys that are a lot older than I was that were still competitive.
When you had to retire?
Oh, let's see. 31.
Yeah, you're young.
Yeah, I mean, I got another, I don't know, 4 Olympics. No problem.
So what's your advice though? Like, so somebody's at the end of their journey, or they're finding themselves where their dream has an expiration date that maybe they didn't even realize. What do they need to do?
Well, I think they need to decide, am I okay? If you enjoy the people, if you enjoy the sport, let's just say it's a sport, a situation, and you enjoy being. If winning is not your primary reason for doing this, your reason for doing it is because you really like to do it. Like Wigger, he was really happy when he was pulling the trigger. He was never quite happy with coaching or being an administrator or doing anything. He was good at everything that he did, but he was really, that was who he was. Well, that wasn't who I was. I mean, I didn't love rifle shooting as much. I loved the idea of am I better today than I was yesterday? And rifle shooting just happened to be the vehicle that I could do. I was not going to do it. I wasn't going to be a basketball player. I wasn't going to be a football player. And so, but to me, it was more of creating something. I fell in love with the idea of creating something that hadn't been done before, doing things that I hadn't done before, all that kind of stuff. And Now, a good second choice would be to pick something else that you really like. I mean, I'm not saying this, a choice. So one choice is to continue to compete, knowing that you're not going to be able to, you're not going to be number one anymore, okay, but you're going to continue to compete because you enjoy doing that, and maybe it's a vocation where you need to do it to feed your family and all that kind of stuff. That's an honorable choice. Another choice might be to, what else are you passionate about? If you didn't do this and you took all the time and money and effort that you're spending on this and put it into to something else that you're passionate about, could you kind of go to the top in that area? Does that turn you on? I mean, that's what Margaret Murdoch did. That's what, that's kind of what I did. And I think that's the case, because it may be a lot of people are like I was. They didn't have a choice. This wasn't a choice that I made. If I had a choice, I would have kept on, going to tournaments for at least another couple of years. But sooner or later, I would have had to have made this choice. Looking back on it, I'm so glad it happened like this, because I was still young enough to develop mental management to a certain point before you and Troy kind of joined me, and we have what we have now. I probably wouldn't have had that if I'd continued to shoot. I probably wouldn't have done much with mental management in my 30s, and I think that probably would have changed a lot of what I'm able to do now. But so it's a choice of finding something else that is a passion, so that you can, the things that you learned getting to the top of what you did, can you apply those to something else?
Well, so I have a question. Like, how do you determine what you're passionate about? Like, that's a big question that our teenagers wrestle with, or our college students wrestle with, or what do I want to do with my life, or how do I determine, does everybody have passion?
Well, I think passion is a very interesting topic. I think passion comes and goes. It makes itself makes you aware that it's there, instead of you going out to find it. It's kind of, it shows up. Like I wasn't the first time I had a chance to talk to the girl I married. I wasn't passionate about going out and dating and people I was in high school, and I wasn't passionate about it. But in 24 hours, I became passionate about chasing this girl. I caught her too, and there are times in your life when you're passionate about certain things, and passion tends to you can feed it. I think that you go from interest to passion. First of all, you've got to look a little bit for something that is a potential for you to really go for it. A lot of times people will try to follow their parents, because they know a lot about what their parents do. There's a lot of dentists that are dads or dentists, or lawyers that are dads or lawyers, or golfers that are their dads or moms or golfers. So you tend to go where you know where it is, but it doesn't necessarily. Maybe that's not where you want to go, and if you feel pulled in a direction, that's passion kind of finds you, and instead of, you may be kind of looking for it, and maybe that'll work, but I think that people get passionate about certain things. I think parents sometimes are passionate more passionate about what their kids are doing than their kids are, and that's an issue. That's one of the things that we discuss in the book Parenting Champions, is that you don't want to be out of sync with your kids. The kind of support that you provide for them needs to be, and your interest in it needs to sync up with their interest, and because you can live vicariously through your children if you're not careful.
Okay, so here's what I really want to understand is, okay, if you're at the end of your road in your sport, you've got 3 choices. Number 1, you stay in the sport just knowing that you're not going to be at the level in which you've been before, but you choose to stay because it's where you feel like you belong. Or you completely change gears, find something else you're just as passionate about, or where you can put your gifts or talents or experience to good work and good use, which is what you did. Or what's the third one?
The third one is you try to help other people reach the levels that you had reached.
You become a coach, in other words, maybe.
You become a coach. The third one is you say, take all of this information that you had used, and if you're so inclined to coach, there are people that really enjoy helping other people and really enjoy making a difference in other people. There's a special feeling that only happens when you're trying to make a difference in somebody else's life. Making a difference in your life by achieving something, or that's a certain kind of feeling. It's a good feeling, but it's a different feeling when you make a difference in other people's lives. And so if you can do that, you can take all of the things that you've learned to climb that mountain and impart that to somebody else who is on a climb too, and help them reach higher, help them go further than they would have gotten had it not been for you. And that was appealing to me as well. So it wasn't just the subject of mental management, although that was a major part of it, but it was also the idea that a lot of things happen to me that are common that happen to other people. You know, I was told I couldn't do it. I was told that I was the least likely person in school to ever win a gold medal in the Olympics. I mean, that's a good motivator right there. You know, tell me I can't do something, and I don't want to do it. So I just felt that there was a purpose for me. I was relevant, but I was not. I could not do what I was doing. So I had to shift gears and find something that was a fit for me and what I wanted to do. It wasn't easy, still isn't.
How long did it take you to stop being mad at God?
Oh, not a couple of days. It didn't last very long. I started understanding I started thinking about it. I said, what's really happening here? Now, I didn't really understand this. I mean, it takes some time for you to go from this is something that's happening to me to this is something that's happening for me. It took me a while to get to that point, but I've definitely, for sure, that I'm a much, much better person and much, much happier person and much more fulfilled person because this happened, when it happened, and how it happened than any other way. Because you got to be thinking about it. I didn't have to suffer the go into a tournament and being world champion and being beaten by a 16-year-old kid, you know, and that happens a lot. I mean, all of a sudden you have this wonderkind that comes up and he just aces out the world champion. Then you think, oh, that didn't feel good.
But you also never got your farewell competition.
Well, that's one thing that's bothered me over the years. I don't remember the last tournament I competed in. I couldn't tell you which one it was. I didn't get to say goodbye to goodbye to the sport. I tried to, at the Hall of Fame induction of USA Shooting, I tried to try to say kind of say goodbye, but I didn't have a farewell event or a retirement ceremony or thing like that. And okay. That was just one thing. Now I still dream about I still dream that most of the time when I have dreams about shooting, I'm at the range and I can't find a piece of equipment. That's mostly what I'm thinking. I can't find my ammo. I can't find my point, or I'm late for my relay or whatever it is. It's I don't dream about winning anything or doing anything like that.
I dream that I can't do the simplest of tasks. I can't even put my clothes on. I can't find my keys. I can't get to work. All of that. I have those kind of. I'm sure it's stress induced.
I've learned this, that if your phone doesn't work in a dream, you're dreaming. So if your phone doesn't work, you need to squeeze yourself. I've actually, in a dream, I've actually hit myself on the face and try that to wake up, because you're dreaming, and sometimes it works. Sometimes I don't think about it, but that's what's happening.
It's funny. So in closing, if you find yourself that you are at the end of your career and you're trying to figure out what is next, take some time to analyze. Do you want to stay in the sport and stay relevant in the sport even if you can't be at the top of your game? Do you want to completely switch gears, or do you want to mentor others on their path? We hope that you've enjoyed this episode. Go ahead and like it if you do, share it with others, subscribe to our channel, and if you're not already a Patreon member, we invite you to join. I'm going to spend some more time with Lanny picking his brain.